So our aim for this webinar today is, first of all, to share with you the pieces that have been missing from your business efforts so far, from your activities that you've been doing so far, and how your brain has been keeping you stuck up until now. And we'll also give you the information on how you can completely revolutionize and level up your business results by gaining control over your brain chemistry and then by changing your brain's GPS to match the results you want, and so that your results are then automatic and you don't have to try so hard. Thirdly, we'll introduce you to an opportunity to learn more about our accelerated business transformation program. Just to clarify, there's nothing to buy on this webinar. There's nothing that's going to be sold, and you cannot buy anything on this webinar, but we will give you some information on that in case you're interested in finding out more. And finally, we're going to answer every question you have. So we will do a live Q&A at the end. We love answering questions, so please don't hesitate to ask us about anything at all. So according to the International Coaching Federation, 82% of coaching businesses fail within the first 2 years, which is an extraordinary amount of people. And in addition to that, over 50% of coaches earn less than $1,000 a month. So if you've been struggling with your coaching business, not only are you not alone, but you're in the majority. So most of the coaches we've spoken with and worked with have talked about 5 main challenges they have. So let us know in the chat or the Q&A which of these challenges you can identify with, and if we've left any out. So the first one is building an audience, but getting hardly any engagement. And I've seen this a lot on all social media, but especially on LinkedIn, where people are sharing content and they've got a following. So they've got plenty of people who are in their following or in their connections, but they're getting 1 or 2 likes and maybe a comment here or there. The second piece is that not being able to get your voice heard amongst the crowd. So it can be very noisy on these platforms, and very often you get overshadowed by more established coaches and business owners. The third one that people struggle with is not being able to reach the right person, the right client or customer. The fourth one is not being able to be consistent in creating content. So we know that in order for people to know about you and to know why they need to work with you, they need to hear your voice. They need to get to know you. And so creating content consistently is really important. But we found that a lot of coaches, and we were in this group as well, either can't think of what to say or are worried about what other people will think, or feel self-conscious, and or don't have the time to do it. And what I see a lot of on LinkedIn in particular is people reposting other people's content. And that's absolutely fine. But if you are only reposting other people's content and you're not speaking for yourself, you're not sharing any of your own content, your audience aren't getting to know you. So it's very important to be able to use your own voice. And the information we're going to share with you today is going to help you to do that if you feel you can't do it at the moment. And then finally, of course, a very common one is self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And again, that is so much more common than people realize. So let us know if you can identify with any of those, maybe all of them, or if we've left any out. So why do the majority of coaching businesses fail? A lot of people feel it's lack of business skills, lack of marketing or sales skills or resources. And then we've heard a lot of people say that they feel that the coaching market is saturated. So let's look at those 3 things. The first thing, lack of business skills, that's not a thing because you can learn business skills. So I don't believe that that's the reason they fail. Marketing and sales, the same goes for those. You can learn those skills. And then as for the coaching market being saturated, there are so many more people in the world who need our help than there are coaches to serve them. So it's not that the coaching market is saturated. We've spent years and years looking, reading all the books and doing the courses and trying out the modalities and methods to try to find the answer to why some people succeed and others don't, and why we weren't succeeding. And in addition to all the actual business books and methods, and you may recognize some of these, we also did all the self-development side of it, all the personal development side of it, all the spiritual side of it. And we couldn't find the answers in any of that. What we discovered is there are three reasons that were holding us back and that hold most people back. The first is not having control over your own brain chemistry, which determines how you're feeling, so your emotions, and your ability to think clearly and creatively and cognitively, using your cognitive thinking. The second piece is that your brain's GPS is still on the default setting. So it's still set for whatever past results you've been getting instead of being aligned with the new results you want to achieve, your goals and your dreams. And finally, knowing how to change that GPS so that it matches those results that you want to achieve. And then you go there automatically. So today in this webinar, we're going to share with you three main pieces. The first is your brain chemistry and your brain's GPS and how taking control over that will level up your business and give you the advantage over everyone else in your field, so over your competitors. The second piece will be how to get real world results for your business from these techniques. And then finally, we'll share with you the system that makes getting those results fast and easy. So we're not going to go into much detail of who we are, but we want to give you a little bit of a background so you know why we are able to share this and why we know it works. So we're going to start. I'm going to hand over to Steve to start with.
Yeah, so like Odile said, I'm just going to give you a quick little snapshot of my professional career before and after using what we're going to be sharing with you today in the webinar. So up until about 2017, I had started multiple businesses that ultimately failed because I couldn't attract enough clients. And and that I think was in part due to some old self-worth issues. And I was also in this place of significantly undercharging for my services. And there were plenty of people coaching me at the time. I was seeking out coaching advice at the time, telling me to raise my prices, and I just couldn't get myself to do it. I was also struggling with I was sorry, I was also struggling with being able to promote myself. And I was really anxious about getting on camera, that fear, that nervousness of just hitting the record button. I was dealing with imposter syndrome. I was constantly worried about what other people were going to be thinking about me. I had this huge fear of rejection, and I absolutely hated anything that it had anything to do with sales. So I just hated the thought of doing sales. And I did everything I could to avoid that process. And as a result, I ended up, having a terrible track record in sales and lost a lot of business as a result of that. And I just couldn't imagine, taking the steps to actually increasing my sales. So, and again, apologize for the chat function going on right now. So, but in the Q&A function, um, type in a one in the Q&A if there's anything there that kind of resonates with you as well. Um, so as I discovered, what we're sharing with you in this webinar today, my life and my business skills and everything completely changed up. And now, instead of hating sales, instead of avoiding sales, I've been able to engage in the process, and I actually enrolled 36 high ticket clients into our top tier, our premium coaching package last year. So, and then um, I was also able to overcome that fear that I had of getting on camera. So now I'm able to get on, help out with live streams, making YouTube videos, doing these type of things. All of that would have been completely anxiety producing in the past, and now I'm able to hop on and actually enjoy doing that. um, I've been able to overcome and get rid of that imposter syndrome in my life, and I'm not in that place of constantly worrying about what other people are thinking about me. So all of that has had a huge impact, and it's just made moving forward and making those steps in the business skill or the business changes happening automatically. So in using what we're sharing with you in this webinar, it has completely changed, how I'm living my life and how we're moving forward in business. And it's really allowed me to start automatically taking different actions, making different decisions, and I'm now able to live life on my own terms, and I'm able to spend more time with family. I'm able to engage in what I'm doing, the work that I'm doing. I'm able to do that in a more passionate way, and I'm able to just be able to enjoy life in the way that I want to be living it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. And for me, before Steve and I met, so up until 2016, I had extremely low self-esteem, low self-worth. I was easily overwhelmed. I was terrified of people not liking me. I was helping other people, but I couldn't help myself. So a lot of imposter syndrome there. I had 25 years of failed businesses. I was a people pleaser and I felt uncomfortable asking to be paid. I was cleaning houses because I couldn't make a living from being a coach. Using what we're going to share with you in this webinar today, I was able to not only pay my bills, but also start traveling internationally. And that's how Steve and I met in Oklahoma City on one of my trips to America. I used to live in England. I became comfortable charging what I'm worth, and I'm not a people pleaser anymore. And I have authentic confidence, and I'm not worried about what others think anymore. I'm having a lot more fun with my life. So I've created the life that I want. I now live in America, which is where I'd always wanted to live, and I became an American citizen. And of course, able to spend plenty of time with friends and family as well, and just have a much more relaxed, fun life. I also ended up owning three of the rental properties that I used to clean in 2015. So I'm very grateful for that as well. So we've spent tens of thousands of dollars, literally tens of thousands of dollars on marketing consultants and training and courses and advertising and all kinds of things to try and get clients. Our income was roller coaster, and we found that when we did get people, we were often attracting the wrong kind of people who, weren't able to pay or weren't prepared to invest in themselves. So using our own techniques that we're going to be sharing with you today, we have been started finding the right people to work with that are an absolute pleasure to work with. We had our first six-figure revenue year last year, which we're thrilled about, and we now attract the right kind of clients. So the reason we are so passionate about helping coaches in particular is that there are coaches out there, and you may be one of them, who have solutions for people, but their doubts and fears are stopping them from sharing those solutions. So there are people out there who need coaches, but the coaches aren't able to get to them. And empowering even just one coach could change the world through a ripple effect, because this is not just about helping a coach or a few coaches. This is about the people that they impact and the people who are impacted by those people. So this is the ripple effect that can happen. So our mission is to empower 1,000 coaches to use their coaching to transform 1 million lives in turn. So part one is gaining control over your brain. And we start with gaining control over your own brain chemistry first before we move on to the GPS. So the reason for gaining control over your brain chemistry is because all other activity you do in your business, marketing, sales, anything else, is useless without this control. And I'm going to explain exactly why that is. So let's take creating content, for example. So we know that creating content, really important, social media and so on, to reach the people that you can help. The problem is if you're trying to create content without control over your own brain, you may be finding you can't come up with the ideas. You may not be able to think of what to say. You may find yourself resisting or procrastinating or feeling overwhelmed or not having the time to be consistent. You may be worried about what others may think. And when you do create content, you may find that it's not getting the reactions that you need. Secondly, engaging with prospective leads and the type of people you want as clients without doing that activity, any activity like that, without control of your own brain, means you may have a fear of rejection. You may not know what to say to them. You may feel fake. You may not feel authentic. Again, overwhelmed, and you may be a people pleaser as well. Doing sales calls. So if sales calls are part of your business or you need them to be part of your business, again, without control over your own brain, you may find that you avoid them altogether, or you may find that when you do them, you feel, you have imposter syndrome, you fear of rejection. You may, like Steve, you may hate selling, like Steve did. You may have self-doubt, fear of failure. And you may think, oh, I know, I've got a solution. This was me. I thought, I'll get people to do it for me. I'll hire salespeople or something. And again, without the control of your own brain, you may find that you're choosing the wrong people. You're drawn to the wrong people. You may make bad financial decisions and lose money. Your judgment, your risk assessment skills are all affected by your brain chemistry. And you may find that you keep getting taken advantage of. So gaining control of your brain chemistry is like learning to drive a vehicle. If you wanted to drive from the city to the beach, but you didn't know how to drive the car, of course, you wouldn't get very far. And most people are trying to run a business and take action and get results without knowing how to drive their vehicle. So all negative emotions are a level of the fight, freeze, flight emergency state. So whenever you're feeling a negative emotion, your brain is producing the same stress chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol that are produced when your life is in danger. So whenever you're feeling a negative emotion, you are in that same state that you would be if you were in danger, because your brain can't tell the difference. And the main problem with that is that those stress chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol cause blood to drain from the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is where we do our cognitive thinking, to the back of the brain for survival. So the prefrontal cortex, we need it for strategizing, problem solving, creativity, coming up with that content, judgment, risk assessment, comprehending information. All of those kinds of higher levels of thinking are done in that part of the brain, that cognitive thinking part of the brain. The stress chemicals that cause negative emotions cause blood to drain from that part of the brain to the back of the brain, because, of course, when you're faced with a bear, there's no time for problem solving or negotiating or strategizing. You need to act instantly and instinctively. And that's what the back of the brain is for. So this means that whenever you're feeling a negative emotion, you literally can't think straight. And you may have found that when you've been in a situation with someone where you've been emotionally triggered, you may find that it's only later that you start thinking of all the things you could have said or should have said at the time. And you didn't think of them in the moment. And the reason for that is while you were in that situation, you were emotionally triggered, you had no blood in that part of your brain. So you couldn't think clearly. You couldn't think of those things. Then later, as the level of stress chemicals started to reduce, blood returned to that part of the brain, and then you were able to think of all the things you could have said. So trying to take any action in your business or in anything really, but trying to take any action in your business, marketing, sales, whatever you're trying to do without while you're in a negative emotional state is like trying to drive with the handbrake on. Once as the stress chemicals reduce and you start producing feel-good chemicals like endorphin, serotonin, and oxytocin, then blood returns to that part of the brain and then you can think clearly again. Now, thoughts are connections between neurons in the neocortex of the brain, and those connections trigger matching chemicals. So to put it very simplistically, negative thoughts, the connections between neurons when you have negative thoughts trigger stress chemicals, and the connections between neurons when you have positive thoughts trigger feel-good chemicals. And it takes just 60 to 90 seconds to switch your system from stress chemicals to feel-good chemicals, as long as you're keeping your focus off the negative and on the positive for just that minute and a half. But you'll have noticed that negative emotions usually last longer than 90 seconds. And the reason for that is for most of us, when we start to feel the negative emotion, we think about it and we think about all the reasons for it. And as we are, all of those thoughts are connections between neurons that are triggering more stress chemicals, restarting that 90-second clock each time. So that's why those negative emotions last for a lot longer. Now, also, the reason it's easier to feel bad than it is to feel good is because stress chemicals are stronger than feel-good chemicals because they're for survival. And that's so that we don't get killed by the bear while we're appreciating the pretty flowers. So here's a real life example of exactly how this works. When Swasti first came to us, she wanted to be a doctor. She was applying for medical school, and it was her dream to become a doctor. She was struggling to get the grades that she needed. She was very self-conscious and anxious. She had a fear of what others would think. She was filled with self-doubt and fear, and everyone around her were, people around her were getting offers from medical school, and she was being turned down. She couldn't concentrate, she was procrastinating, and she felt overwhelmed. We taught her how to gain control over her brain chemistry so that she could keep her prefrontal cortex online, in addition to changing the brain's GPS, which we'll come to in the next section. But keeping her prefrontal cortex online allowed her to not only get the marks that she needed, but to exceed them. She didn't just get into medical school, she got into her first choice, her top choice medical school. And I received an email from her a few days ago saying that she just passed her third year assessments last week, and she's starting her second to last year of medical school this September. So here's the key, and this is a really sort of, for me, a goosebump moment for all coaches. And I'm getting waves of goosebumps as I'm saying this. There is a future doctor that wouldn't exist if she hadn't gained control over her brain. And the piece here for coaches is there are people out there whose lives will be impacted if you are able to gain control over your brain that will enable you to, of course, help them. Oh, yes. And the bonus is that Swasti was someone who was so self-conscious and had so much anxiety and self-doubt and was so worried about what others would think. She actually started her own YouTube channel as well. So we are so very proud of her. So now that you know about your brain chemistry, let's move on to the brain's GPS. So what's the difference between someone like Alex Hormozi, Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, and you? What's the difference between people who are successful in all kinds of areas and industries and backgrounds, and those who try so hard, work just as hard as those people, and follow the advice of many of those people, but just can't seem to get the results they want? The difference is not personality, of course, because there are all kinds of personalities who are successful, including introverts. It's not opportunities, it's not resources or background, or it's not even determination or motivation or hard work. Because there are lots of people, and I was one of them, with plenty of determination, plenty of motivation, and work really hard, and yet never seem to be able to get those results. It's not skills or knowledge. It's not time or training or coaching or discipline. It's not connections or relationships. Because again, there's varieties of these aspects for successful people and people who are well, not successful. It's not visualization or affirmations or even massive action. Because again, there are people who use all of those things and can't succeed anyway. The key difference is that the brain's evidence, the brain contains evidence that proves our self-image and worldview. So their brains, successful people's brains, contain unconscious evidence that proves their successful self-image, while your brain doesn't contain that evidence yet. We're going to share with you how to make sure that it does. And here's a key piece: that evidence is not necessarily true. And we'll explain that coming up in a little while. Now, if you wanted to drive from the city to the beach, and you know how to drive the vehicle, but your GPS is still set for the city, then of course, every time you start heading toward the beach, your GPS is going to turn you around and guide you back to the city. In the same way, your brain is always keeping you in alignment, not with what you want consciously, but with your implicit childhood memories. So what's implicit memory? If you were to look outside right now and notice that it's raining, how do you know it's rain? How do you know it's not dangerous? And how do you know that if you walk out into that rain, you'll get wet? You probably can't remember how you learned about rain, but it's information that your brain is referring to as implicit memory. It's something you just know. So as we go about our day, as we interact with the world, the information that we receive, the data, the information enters the back of the brain first, the unconscious part of the brain, and it's assessed. And the brain refers to implicit childhood memories to determine what this thing is and what it means. And it then triggers chemicals that create feelings and emotions. And then the conscious mind reacts accordingly. So this is why it can be so difficult to change core behaviors and beliefs, because the brain is referring to implicit memory that prove that this thing, that this is what this is. In other words, it would be like looking outside and seeing that it's raining and trying to pretend that it's snow or something else, confetti. And the other thing is that this is why different people experience and respond to the same situations and events in different ways, because each individual person's brain is referring to different implicit childhood memories that prove this is a different thing. So let us know in the chat, put a 2 in the chat if that was a light bulb moment for you. So the thing that makes the difference between you, for example, and someone who's already built a successful business is that your brain contains unconscious evidence that proves it's not safe to do so in some way, and you'll be consciously not necessarily aware of that, whereas the other person's brain doesn't contain that evidence. So the brain's GPS is implicit childhood memories. Now, I went to one of the workshops that I held recently. Someone asked me, what about successful people who've had difficult childhoods, but they're successful anyway? And they haven't changed their childhood memory. So how is it that they're successful anyway? So here's the answer I gave him. Each individual's brain has a different combination of references. They're all, our combination of references are unique. And if it was just a case of massive action or working harder or using affirmations, positive thinking, visualization, and so on, then those things would work for everyone. if that's all it was. But they don't work for everyone. There are people using affirmations, visualization, they're working hard, they're doing massive action, they're doing all the things, and they're still not getting the results. And the other thing is what we perceive as successful is not always necessarily the case. So you may remember certain celebrities, you may uh, think of certain celebrities who seemed to have it all, but then it turned out they were suffering without anyone knowing. So there are people who may have career success, business success, financial success, and they may be suffering from emotionally or their mental health or their relationships or physical health and so on. So negative childhood references show up in different ways. Think of a Rubik's Cube. In order to solve this Rubik's Cube, you'd need to twist the blocks in different ways until you end up with 6 sides that have one solid color each. But how would you solve this Rubik's Cube that has too many red squares and not enough green? Some cubes can be solved by twisting the blocks in different ways until you reach the solution. And it may take longer, it may take different types of twisting, but eventually you get there. But for others, no amount of twisting those blocks is ever going to end up with the solution. In other words, no amount of affirmations, visualization, massive action, and any other activities are going to end up with success because you're starting off with too many red squares and not enough green. So the way to solve this magic cube, this Rubik's cube, is to replace the red squares with green. So it's to rebuild the squares that the cube is made of first, and then you can end up with the solution. And in the same way, for many of us, we need to rebuild the structure of of our unconscious self-image and worldview. Then the actions we take will be successful. So here's how it works in another real life example. When Peter came to us, he already was a successful business owner, and he had a successful business, but he had struggled his way to success. He had a pattern of self-sabotaging, struggle. He was overworking, and he wasn't getting the results that he wanted. He felt like he had a glass ceiling, and he couldn't level up his business in the way that he wanted to. We helped him to change his brain's GPS, his unconscious self-image and worldview, using our 3-step system, which is gaining control over the brain chemistry, so learning to drive, finding the negative implicit childhood memories that were keeping him stuck, and then changing that GPS, changing those memories to match the results that he wanted. And that resulted in an increase in his revenue in the first by 25% in the first month of working with us. He finally stopped self-sabotaging. He no longer felt like an imposter, which is what he'd felt before. His anxiety levels dropped, his health improved, and he no longer had that repeating pattern of struggle. So now that you know about what the brain's GPS is, let's look at changing it to match the destination you want to get to. So a recap of this, implicit childhood memories prove your self-image and worldview. The unconscious part of your brain is constantly referring to those implicit memories to determine what your experiences mean, and then producing chemicals that create feelings and emotions. And then your conscious mind is responding automatically without realizing that that's what's going on in the background. So in order to change your destination, to change your results, you need to change the negative childhood memories that are proving your current challenges and issues, your current limitations. But can memories really be changed? Well, according to the latest in neuroscience, not only can memories be changed, but they are already changing and updating automatically anyway. You may have found that when you're talking with friends or family about a particular event you all experienced, that everyone seems to have a different version of what happened. Let us know in the chat or the Q&A if you've experienced that in the past. And that's because memories are neither accurate nor permanent in the first place. And in addition to that, the unconscious part of the brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination, can't judge something as unrealistic, and can't use logic or reason. So you may find when watching a scary movie, you feel the fear even though you know it's just a movie. So your conscious mind knows this is just a movie, and yet you feel the fear anyway because the unconscious part of your brain thinks you're in real danger. So it's pumping those stress chemicals into your system, the same stress chemicals it would if the threat was real. And this happens even if the movie is unrealistic. So even though you know dinosaurs don't exist anymore, the unconscious part of your brain doesn't know that. So it's still producing that fear response. So considering our implicit childhood memories provide the evidence that proves our self-image and worldview, and memories are already changing on their own anyway, and the unconscious part of the brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination, can't judge something as unrealistic, and can't use logic or reason, we can create new evidence that proves the results we want to experience, that proves the new self-image and worldview. Now, one of the most common questions we get is, isn't that gaslighting yourself or brainwashing yourself? And here's the way to think of it. When you change the coordinates in your GPS because you want to go to a new destination, your GPS accepts those new coordinates for the new destination, while you, as the driver, can still remember where you were before. In the same way, when you change the negative implicit childhood memories to match the results you want in your life, the unconscious part of your brain will accept the new childhood memories as evidence of your new self-image and your new worldview and the results you want, while you can still consciously remember what originally happened. So there's no brainwashing and there's no gaslighting at all involved. So here are a few of the real world effects on your business from changing childhood memories. If you currently struggle to come up with content, so perhaps you can't think of ideas, or you're overwhelmed by too many things to do. You don't have enough time. You can't be consistent. You feel resistant. You don't like doing it. You're worried about what others may think. All of those things. Changing the implicit negative childhood memories that are currently proving those limitations will result in you suddenly being able to come up with creative ideas easily and being able to find your own voice and speak in your own voice, having authentic confidence. And on top of all of that, you'll actually enjoy the activity instead of having to force yourself to do it. And of course, all of that will result in you being able to automatically make sure that the right people are being exposed to your business, that you are standing out from, you're one of those handful of coaches that actually stand out from the crowd. If you, I'm going to have a glass of water, sorry, not a glass, just a sip. Excuse me. Now, if you are, for example, self-conscious, maybe you're a people pleaser, you've got self-doubt, you procrastinate, you're not sure what to say, you feel overwhelmed. Again, changing the negative childhood memories that are proving those things about yourself to the unconscious part of your brain will result in you automatically feeling authentically confident and being able to think clearly and express yourself clearly because you'll have the prefrontal cortex of your brain online. And of course, that will result in you being able to connect with people in a more natural way that feels comfortable. And then finally, for this example, sales calls. If you hate sales like Steve used to, and perhaps you avoid the calls altogether. You have a fear of rejection, you don't feel confident, you feel fake. Again, changing those implicit uh, negative childhood memories that are proving those things about yourself to the unconscious part of your brain will result in you automatically feeling confident, comfortable, and actually enjoying the process as Steve now does. And that will enable you to connect more authentically with people. And of course, that will result in you being able to work with the clients who you want to work with and who are able to pay you what you want and deserve. So changing your negative childhood memories will make you one of the 18% of successful businesses. That's the way to get into that 18%. So here's another real life example of exactly how this works. Deborah has her own business in emotional intelligence, and she's really passionate about what she does, but she wasn't making enough money in her business. So she was working really hard. She was so passionate about what she does, but she said she felt like she was taking 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. And she'd done a lot of courses, read all the books. She mentioned T. Harv Eker's course as an example. So despite her hard work, she couldn't break free of that cycle of financial struggle. She also had a lot of self-doubt, imposter syndrome, procrastination. She spoke about literally not being able to get her fingers to move on the keyboard. That's how frozen she would get. We helped her to identify and change the implicit negative childhood memories of betrayal that were keeping her stuck financially using our 3-step system. So control over the brain chemistry, finding those memories, and then changing them. And the result was that she started, instead of dreading what she had to do and resisting it and procrastinating, she found herself being excited in the morning, excited to get up and get moving and take the actions that she knew she needed to take. No more self-doubt, no more panic, no more procrastination. And she's found herself with authentic confidence. She wasn't having to fake anything anymore. And she also, as a cherry on the top, found herself comfortable charging more what she wanted to charge. So she had wanted to increase her prices, but it felt awkward, uncomfortable. She had resistance to it. And now she said, it feels right. It feels good to do. So let's move on to the strategy part. If you were to invest any more time, money, or effort in any activities in your business, marketing, sales, any other activities, without changing your implicit childhood memories first, that would be like buying a new engine for your vehicle without changing the GPS to match the new destination you want to get to. So you have a lovely new vehicle, lovely new engine, but you're still going to stay where you are because you haven't changed the GPS to the new destination. And if you do any personal developments and use visualization, mindfulness, affirmations, any other personal development, it'll work, but only if your brain is not referring to contradicting childhood memories that prove the opposite of those affirmations and visualization. So once you've changed your brain's GPS, once you've changed those implicit negative childhood memories, then you take the advice. Take the action. Then you'll automatically start seeing things differently. You'll be happy to take action that you don't want to take right now, that you're resisting or you're frightened to take. You'll be making different decisions. You'll notice different opportunities, and you'll feel authentically confident and comfortable. You'll also be more creative and innovative because you'll have access to that part of your brain, and you'll attract different people to the ones you've been attracting so far. Very importantly, this is not necessarily about trauma or a bad childhood. So a lot of people go, well, my childhood was fine. There's nothing bad there. Here's an example of how this works with even just, not trauma. So at one of our weekend workshops in Seattle, Michelle she was in a full-time job at the time, and she didn't she wasn't enjoying that job, and she wanted to create her own consultancy business. But she couldn't afford to leave the full-time job in order to do that. And everything she was trying to build those finances so that she could afford to leave the job, she was failing. And she felt frustrated. She felt like she was being held back by an invisible block, and that she was helpless to move forward. So we helped her using our detective techniques. We found the link between the financial struggle and the feeling of being held back and unable to do what she wanted to do, and memories, childhood memories of her parents holding her back from going to the high school she wanted to go to. Now, as you can see, that's not trauma. That's not a terrible experience. But what had happened there is her brain had was using those memories as proof that she is the kind of person who is held back from doing what she so desperately wants to do. That was the kind of status quo. So then her parents were no longer holding her back, but money was playing the role of her parents. So after we helped her to change that memory and other memories that were linked to it, Michelle then was able to start her own successful coaching and consultancy business. And she also moved to Hawaii as a bonus. So how did that work in Michelle's brain? As she started making progress towards her goal of being able to leave her job and start her business, the unconscious part of her brain, without her conscious knowledge, the unconscious part of her brain was referring to the fact that it's normal for her to be held back from doing what she wanted to do. And it was then triggering chemicals that were affecting her judgment, her decisions, her risk assessment, and her choices, and then creating those feelings, and her conscious mind was responding accordingly. When we changed those negative childhood memories, her brain was then still keeping her in alignment, but with the new childhood memories that were proving that she's always free to do what she loves. So you can create the business success you want, you can have the freedom you want, and you can impact the world. You just need to change your brain's GPS to match that life, and then the rest is automatic. So let's look at how you do that. At the Remmert method, we put our solution into three of those three pieces. The first is gaining control over your brain chemistry, which affects your emotions and your cognitive thinking. Finding the implicit negative memories that are holding you back, and then changing those memories so that they're in alignment with the results that you want to achieve. And using those three pieces, we've helped hundreds of clients to achieve their results. Obviously, we can't go into everybody's story, but this is just a sample of some of the results. We've now created the Accelerated Business Transformation Program, which I'm going to share with you now. It includes our proprietary detective work process to help you find those childhood memories. Our memory changing techniques work within minutes. It's very quick, it's gentle, it's fun, and they last. And we have a 2-minute technique that trains you to condition your brain to produce lower levels of stress chemicals and higher levels of feel-good chemicals. Everything we do in that transformation program is laser focused on getting the business results you want. So this is not therapy. This is not addressing emotional issues and that kind of thing. We do that kind of thing, but this program is specifically for getting business results. So everything is focused on that. You can't buy the program on this webinar, and you can't buy it online. The first step, if you're interested, is to book a call with Steve to find out if it's a good fit. I am going to give you more details right now and give you the information now, but I have put a QR code on the screen that you can scan if you would like to book a call, and that QR code will be on all the slides moving forward. So the program includes lifetime access to our academy, which has short video lessons from Steve and I, and a workbook, and everything you need to train your brain to produce lower levels of stress chemicals, higher levels of feel-good chemicals, how to find those memories that are creating the problems and keeping you stuck, and how to change them quickly and easily. It also includes in-person live sessions with me each week so that I can personally guide you through the process of finding and changing those memories and making sure that you're in alignment with the goals that you want. And you'll get the recordings of those live sessions as well so that you can refer to them when you need them. I'll send you daily emails with encouragement and tips and reminders. You'll get an MP3 download of the exercises and the techniques so that you can use them when you want to. And we have a private supportive community as well. If you book your call today, you'll also get a copy of our audio book in addition to the PDF copy. And our book has all the scientific references and resources in it for those who are interested in that side of things, along with case studies and examples from clients. We've also created a special little fun accountability incentive, and this is optional, but we thought it would be fun. At the beginning of each week, you set the tasks that you want to accomplish by the end of the week. And then at the end of the week, if you've achieved that goal, we'll refund you $10. So it's just a fun extra little incentive for those who like gamification. We'll also give you the opportunity to gain exposure to our audience for your business. So we'll do an interview with you on our YouTube channel about your business if you would like that. And then in addition to that, for the first 4 people who sign up for the program for this cohort, I'll do a private one-to-one session with you. And you can use that whenever you need it. And during that call, I'll take you through the whole process. And by the end of that call, you will feel good about taking any action that you need to take instead of any resistance or fear or overwhelm or whatever the issue is you're struggling with right now. Very importantly, you don't need to share any details with me. So I can help you to change those references. We were working no content. So you don't need to tell me any of the details of the memories or the past experiences, of course, unless you want to. So the program is a 3-month program. You get everything I've mentioned there, plus the bonuses, and it is $297 per month for the 3 months. So the first step is to book that call with Steve first, and he will answer your questions and make sure that it's a good fit. Because this is a group program, we want to make sure, of course, that it's a good fit for everyone. And then if it's a good fit, he will send you the link so that you can get started. We have 12 spaces available for this cohort, and I put the URL on the screen in case the QR code doesn't work for you. Again, we're not doing online applications for this. It is only through the call. So that's the end of the presentation side of things. So let's go on to the Q&A. Steve, do we have questions? Over to you.
Yes, we yes, we do. And I'm just pulling those up right now. And the first question is, well, there was one early on. Is this recording going to be available? Um, and the answer is yes on that. Can you speak to that just briefly?
Yes, absolutely. I will be uploading this recording to our YouTube channel. So if you go onto YouTube and just search for the Remmert method, if you're not already a subscriber, you will find the recording there. I should be able to get it up by tomorrow, I think.
Great. Um, when will the live weekly sessions happen? What day, what time?
Ah, yes, very good question. The live weekly sessions are on Wednesdays at 12:30 p.m. Central Time. That's 6:30 p.m. UK time. We try to find a time that suits most time zones. But if you really want to do the program and you can't make it at that time or on that day, then let us know. Send a message in the Q&A. And if there are enough people who need a different time, then we may be able to add a second live session during the week.
Great. And a few questions from a little bit earlier in the presentation. So Perhaps the questions have already kind of been dealt with, but I'll just go ahead and give you um, those questions. One question, could you please shed a little bit more light on why we put brain struggles with deadlines?
Yes, absolutely. Great question there, Sonam. Thank you for that. So this is going to vary from person to person, and it's going to depend on the specific childhood memories, but I'm going to give you some examples. So let's say, for example, let's say you struggle with deadlines, because struggles with deadlines can vary from person to person. So a lot of people, for example, will wait until the very last minute. So they find themselves procrastinating until the deadline is almost there, and then they're stressed and trying to get it done in time. And one of the causes of that can be a childhood where they were the only way to succeed was when you were stressed. In other words, perhaps it could go to homework. It could go to stressed parents. So seeing your parents stressed all the time, so your brain becomes that state of stress and fear becomes the normal. And if you were to uh, be early with your deadline, that wouldn't fit in with those childhood references of I need to be in that survival state in order to survive, in order to get things done. Another possibility is fear of success. That's a possibility. So it'll depend on the individual.
Great. Another question. Um, I don't have a business. However, I would like to get out of uh, corporate rat race and work for myself. However, I don't have any idea where to start or what business, what I would like to do. Please
Oh,
assist
fantastic.
on where I would start.
Fantastic. Thank you, Spasihle, for that question. So the place to start is the end result. If you could wave a magic wand and you don't know what the business is yet, but you know how it feels. So let's pretend that you pretend to yourself, okay, I wake up in the morning and I'm doing something that I love and it's my own business. Don't worry about the details to start with. Just ask yourself how that would feel inside and see if you can drill down and identify that feeling. So, for example, it may feel like, oh, I'm so excited, or thank you, thank you, thank you. Or I can't wait to get started, that kind of thing, whatever that is, or I'm so relieved. So identify that and keep that in your mind as your destination, that's your end result. Then ask yourself, what are the things that make you feel like that? So if you have, for example, let's say you enjoy tennis, and so now don't worry about how you're going to make money from the thing at first. That's very important because we tend to filter out valid options because we're thinking, well, I can't make money at that. Don't worry about that to begin with, because there's all kinds of way to make money, all kinds of ways to make money from what you love, and they're not always obvious. So whatever it is you enjoy, um, identify that and see if you can get that same feeling of the excitement or however that feeling is, that you would wake up in the morning and this activity, whatever that is, and then allow that to sit in the background without trying to find ways to do it. Now, this next piece is the piece that most people miss. Ask yourself how you know you can't do that. So, in other words, as you imagine doing something you love, it doesn't matter what it is, and feeling that feeling that you came up with, as you think of doing that, notice what thoughts and feelings come up, like, oh, but that will never happen, or but what will people think, or I don't know what to do, and make a note of all of those things. Because the logical answer to all of those is there are plenty of people all over the world from all different backgrounds doing all kinds of things to make money. And there are people who didn't know how they were going to do it, and then they learned. And of course, YouTube is full of things, full of videos on how to do things that you don't know how to do yet. So it's those objections are not logical. They are coming from those deeper references. Once you've got that list, then ask yourself, how do I know? How do I know these things? How do I know I'm too old? Or how do I know I don't know how to do such and such? And from there, you will then need to find those childhood references and change those references to the opposite, positive, empowering. So that, and only once you change those references, then you'll know what kind of business you're able to do. So I hope that answers your question, specifically.
And
And
yeah, a couple more questions. I know that one was kind of specific to what you were talking about during the webinar, but perhaps you could address what are the techniques to change memories.
okay, very good. Well, that's what we go through in the program. So because it's a big topic. So when I take you through, first of all, when you join the program, you'll have access to the academy that will have the video lessons that will teach you the techniques for finding the memories and for changing them. And then during the live sessions, I will also personally take you through that process to make sure that you're able to do it. So that I won't be doing it for you. I'll teach you to do it so that you are able to then use those techniques whenever you need to.
And I think that wraps up the questions that I have right now. I'm not seeing any. Oh, wait a minute. There may be a couple more I missed.
So someone here, I see someone asked, so Tiffany asked, do you ever do private and not group? Yes, we do do private sessions as well. If you book a call with Steve using that link, he will be able to give you more information on working privately one-to-one as well. And then could you please share an example or two of the exercises that you suggest to your customers? Certainly. So one of them was, I just used it with Specicle there. We call it a touchstone. That's identifying the end result, the end destination. Another little one that you can use is take a deep breath, close your eyes, and imagine seeing the little you in front of you, yourself as a child, and then give that little you a hug and hold that hug until you can feel that love. And that's just a little technique that we use to help people to bring down those stress chemicals. And anything else? Was that all of the, any other questions there?
I think I think that we've gotten to the end of that list. So yeah, I think
Okay.
yeah,
So I'm
and
seeing, so
yeah. Mm.
thank you, everybody. I'm looking at the chats here as well. Thank you. It's so lovely to see you all in there. Thank you for taking. Thank you for the contributions and so on. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you for the messages. And so that's it then for now, I think, right? Thank you for so much for joining us. We had 50 something of you online, 50 odd um, participants. So it was wonderful to have you all with us, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And so we'll say goodbye. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye for now.